Welcome Commanders, this is Brightwood from Oracle Station, and this video is a breakdown of the Epic Anniversary Officers. These officers are part of Star Trek Fleet Command's 5th year anniversary, and if you opened your gift chest today, you would get 10,000 5th year anniversary tokens that you could use to claim a full unlock of an Epic officer of your choosing. Today being November 29th, 2023. For commanders over operations level 19, we have 5 days to choose from an Epic officer in the list, and there are 52 Epic officers that we have to choose from. For commanders that are under operations level 19, you'll get your choice of 20 rare officers to choose for your full unlock. And we all want to make sure that we're getting the best officers that we can. So it is my hope with this video that we'll be able to get through all 52 Epic officers, giving you a better idea of which one you're going to claim as your 5th year anniversary gift. Everybody will have different reasons why they think certain officers are more valuable to them. In this video, I'm going to try and cover key points that I think will help you to make your decision on which officer to choose from the list of officers made available to us. I will be looking at the following criteria: the sourcing available for the officer. The more sourcing options that we have for an officer usually means we'll be able to acquire and max that officer sooner. So that also means I'll be checking how good is the sourcing of that officer. The usefulness of the officer at unlock. Since this is getting you a full unlock of an officer that you may not already have, we want to maybe choose an officer that we know is going to be useful to us at tier 1. And then finally, I'm going to give them a long-term usability rating, because the longer that officer is going to be effective for you probably will help you decide if you want to actually invest your free unlock into that officer. So the first officer in our list of Epic officers is William T. Riker. William T. Riker is available in the Ultra Recruit Pack. He's also available as Transporter Patterns. And this makes his shards pretty much an on-demand shard sourcing. So I really think that this means that basically you're going to be able to acquire them fairly quickly. William T. Riker is a member of the TNG crew group. He is an Armada officer. His officer ability actually increases the weapon damage towards Armada targets. His officer ability increases the weapon damage against Federation hostiles and Federation armadas, and it scales up pretty high to about 300%. He's okay at unlock, but much better as you progress him up to commander with the 300% on his officer ability. So I'm going to say his usefulness is actually a low, and his long-term usability or long-term value is going to be low as well. And the reason it is low is because there are better Armada officers available to you that you can acquire. So you're probably only going to be using him as a supplemental officer if you do get him. And because of this, William T. Riker will probably not make it into our final cut as far as officers we want to consider. Next is Harcourt Fenton Mudd. Harcourt Fenton Mudd is available in our free mission key. He's also available in the Ultra Recruit Pack. the Premium Recruit Pack. He has transporter patterns, and he's also available in the Outlaw store. Harcourt Mudd is a member of the Mudd's Company group in game. His
Captain's ability
is an Armada ability. He increases the weapon damage or decreases the weapon damage of the Armada target by 1%. And his
officer ability
is an increase to your weapon damage when your shields are depleted. He is really not very useful at unlock, and there are better officers that you can use, and for that reason I don't think that his long-term value really is there either. Next up on our list is Geordi La Forge. Geordi La Forge is available in the Ultra Recruit, and he has transport patterns. Geordi La Forge is a member of the TNG crew. He is an Armada officer. He actually will increase the rewards that you receive from defeated Armada targets specifically, and his officer ability increases the damage against Klingon hostiles and Armadas. He has medium usefulness out of the box with his officer ability and the loot increase, but ultimately I'm going to say that his long-term value is low, and that's because, again, we still have better officers that we can run on our Armadas. Next up is Jaylah. Jaylah is one of my favorite officers in the game, and mostly that's because of the artwork, but she has limited availability for acquisition within the game, so keep this in mind when you're making your decisions. She's not available in any of our recruit packs that are available through the game, any of our faction packs or anything like that. Her usefulness at unlock is very high, especially if you're in the lower 50s and down, because you may be still working on your swarm. Her officer ability is very nice. It actually increases your shots of your Franklin and Franklin A, and her captain's maneuver will actually increase the resources that you scavenge by 100%. And this is not just off of the swarm hostiles either. So her long-term value is pretty high because she can carry you up into your lower 50s. Next is Christopher Pike, and for those of you that know me for a while, you know that Christopher Pike is my favorite Star Trek universe captain. And with that, Christopher Pike is available in several acquisition options for us. He's in the Discovery Recruit, Ultra Recruit, Premium Recruit. He's in our Faction Elite Recruit. He has transporter patterns as well. His usefulness unlock is very high, and he will go up into your 60s in the game. And that means that his long-term value is going to also be very high. But as I just kind of said, his availability and acquisition of shards is extremely easy. So probably not a great place for us to look to be spending our unlock shards, unless maybe you're lower ops, lower 20s. And haven't had the chance to unlock him. He'll be a great officer for you. And the next up in our in-game list is Michael Burnham. Michael Burnham is a Discovery Group officer. She is available in the Discovery Recruit Pack. She's been added to the Ultra Recruit Pack. And she's also available in ATAs. So there are a few different sourcing options for her. She is not very useful out of the box. She improves your impulse speed as her captain's maneuver. She does have a decent officer ability and will work on base defenses. So for that reason, she kind of hits a medium long-term value for her. But she's definitely a slow trickle officer up until her being added into the Ultra Recruit Pack. So, yeah. I mean, ultimately, she's okay. Not a high value out of the box officer, so maybe not the best place to look at investing our free unlock. Next, we have James T. Kirk. This is one of our original officers in game. He's a member of the Enterprise crew. He's a great morale officer. His officer ability will has a chance to inspire morale at max. It's an 80% chance. And when he does have morale, he actually will give a 40% bonus before synergy to your officers. So that's pretty nice as well. James T. Kirk is available in the Ultra Recruit Pack, Premium Recruit Pack. He is in the Faction Regular acquisition in our Recruit section, the Faction Elite, and he also has Transporter Patterns. His usefulness unlock is pretty decent, so he's a good at unlock officer, and it just gets better as he goes up in grade. His long-term usability is probably more of a medium though, because we do have some other morale officers that are better than him in the game. Next, we have a Romulan Patriots Group officer, Liviana Charvanek. Her captain's maneuver will actually generate burn against the hostile when your whole health goes below 80%, which is fairly decent, but where she really stands out is in her officer ability Mind Game, which she gives the crew's health bonus to armor piercing. So she is very good against battleships. She is extremely sourceable though. She is available in our mission keys. She's available in the Ultra Recruit Pack, the Premium Recruit Pack. She's in the Faction Elite Pack, as well as she has Transporter Patterns. So her out of the box usefulness is fairly low. She gets better as she gets near max or when you do max her, and her long-term value is probably going to be more around the medium range, because she does have some usefulness, but there are better officers for proccing burn. Ultimately, she's going to be a better targeted officer against battleships. Next, we have our first Borg on the list. It's 5 of 11. She's a member of the Unimatrix 12 group. She is an amazing officer. Okay, her captain's maneuver as weaponry is irrelevant. She will increase your shield deflection armor and dodge by 200%, and she gets some amazing synergy from officers beside her. Her officer ability actually increases the amount of loot dropped from hostiles and armadas. This is actually her best feature, and this can go up to 100%, so that's really nice. Jaylah's, or Borg 5 of 11, sourcing used to be fairly rare, but she is now available in the mission key option. She is available in Ultra Recruits. She's been added to the Premium Recruit, which makes her a little less rare in the acquisition. Her usefulness at unlock is high, and her long-term viability is actually very good as well. Next up is Kras, who is a member of the Glory in the Kill group. He is a Klingon. Kras is actually pretty unique. His Captain's Maneuver decreases the effectiveness of the opponent's Captain's Maneuver by 1%. And his Know the Enemy, he decreases the attack, defense, and health of all the officers on the bridge of the opponent's ship. Kras is available in the Ultra Recruit, Premium Recruit. He's also in the Faction Elite Pack, and he has his own transporter patterns. His usefulness at unlock is fairly low, but he does have some usefulness in base defense when ROM was a factor, which now we have Prime that gives us the same ability as ROM without having to use ROM. His long-term usefulness is actually probably going to be around a medium because of the base defense capability that he has, but his sourcing is fairly easy and on demand with him having transporter patterns. Next up is another Borg, 4 of 11. He's a member of the Unimatrix 12 group as well as 5 is, but he is a great mining officer and cargo capacity increaser. His out-of-the-box usefulness is actually fairly high. He can be used on hostile grinding ships to increase your cargo capacity so that you can bring home more loot, which is pretty nice. He is available in the Ultra Recruit, the Premium Recruit. He's available in the Faction Elite Recruit tile, and he has his own transporter patterns. So his out-of-the-box usefulness is actually high because it's a PvE ability. His long-term usefulness is high as well. So you will be using him pretty much through your whole existence in the game. So he's a pretty good officer, but his sourcing is fairly decent. Next officer is Beckett Mariner. She is part of the lower deck group in the game. Beckett Mariner is a very good officer. She has sourcing through the transporter patterns as well as through the lower decks support crew recruit option as well. So she is acquirable. It is a slow drip for her. She is phenomenal out of the box and just gets better as you upgrade her. And where you really want to focus using her is below the deck, and that's the ability that really actually stands out for her. Again, she is sourceable. It is a steady stream source for her shards. So you will eventually be able to max her out as long as you continue to participate in that support loop to get her. Next up is Data. He is a member of the TNG crew. He has a very nice Captain's Maneuver, which increases critical hit chance at a base of 17%. And he also has a nice officer ability, which increases your armor piercing, shield piercing, and accuracy by 1% as well, going up to 300%. Data is extremely hard to source. There's only one sourcing availability for him in game, and that is through the ATAs. So you need to be pretty religious on doing those ATAs and working to recruit your crew to acquire Data. So again, very rare shards. His usefulness out of the box is very good. With his base critical chance being 17% and with synergy going up much higher. So his long-term value is also going to be high. I actually use him a lot in armadas, so definitely something to look for if you have not unlocked him or would like to help your progression. He may be a candidate for you to use your unlock. Next, we have Eurydice. She is a MUD's company group in the game. She is an interesting officer. Her captain's maneuver is Opportunist, which is a cumulative increase to your weapon's damage if you lose shield health. Not if it shields are depleted, just that you lose health. And her probably very good officer ability is the Delta Quadrant technology, which has a chance to heal your shields, which is very nice. I actually use her a lot on armadas on my Defiant when I'm punching up, because she can actually extend the survivability of my Defiant. She is available in the Ultra Recruit, Premium Recruit. She also has her own transporter patterns, and she is in the Outlaw Recruit Pack. So there are quite a few ways that you can acquire her. Her out-of-the-box usefulness is about a medium. She really needs to be upgraded before she's really going to perform, and I would say her long-term viability for you in game is going to be a medium as well, because there are better officers to run in Armada, and really if your ship is squishy is the only time that she's going to be of value to you. Next on our list is another Unimatrix 12 Borg officer. This is 6 of 11. He is a very good Armada officer. He sits nicely next to 5 of 11 if you're running her on Armadas. So definitely an officer that you want to try and acquire. But he is available in the Mission Key Hunter, the Ultra Recruit, the Premium Recruit. He has his own transporter patterns. His usefulness out of the box is actually very good, and he does get better. Ultimately, you want to pair him up with 5, so he's going to be an Armada officer. His long-term viability is also high. Just to keep in mind, the sourcing is really good for him. He's pretty much a la carte with the transporter patterns, so you probably don't want to look at investing your unlock into him. Next, we have one of our syndicate officers, and that is Ghrush. Ghrush is actually a very good officer. He increases the protected cargo on your ship as his captain's maneuver, and then he has a extension to your warp range by 1% of your ship's warp range. So pretty nice. Ghrush is sourceable specifically through the syndicate, so that's your only source of acquisition for him, making him fairly rare. But as you progress through syndicate, you will get enough shards to max Ghrush, so keep this in mind. His usefulness unlock is actually very good, and his long-term viability is going to be a medium, because I think as you get higher up in the game, you may be less likely to use him outside of maybe putting him below the deck. TOS Spock is the next one on our list. He's a member of the TOS Enterprise crew. His captain's ability is restores your shield health, which is pretty nice. It's 100% of the amount of the defense of the officers on the ship. His Prosper actually decreases the critical damage bonus of the opponent's ship by 1%. If the ship has morale, Spock is available in the Faction Elite Pack and the transporter patterns, so he is available that way. He's also available through ATA acquisition. So there are a few different ways to get TOS Spock. It is a relatively slower trickle of shards for him, though. His usefulness and unlock is fairly high, especially in base defense and with synergy. And his long-term viability is also going to be high, just because you'll probably use him a lot in your base defense if you are, involved in incursions or a little bit of that kind of base rogue activities. Next up is 10 of 11, our little fuzzy furball of Unimatrix 12. He is an amazing mining officer. He will increase the mining speed of power steel, titanium, and lithium, and just the overall mining speed as in his officer ability of the ship itself. Sourcing is fairly wide out there for him. It didn't used to be, but he is in the mission keys. He's been added to the Ultra Recruit and Premium Recruits. And he is also available through ATAs. So his usefulness at unlock is high, and his long-term viability is high as well, because he'll be helping you mine well into your 60s. But again, he is sourceable. The sourcing methods for him are a little slower until he was added into the Premium Recruit and the Ultra Recruit, which should increase your acquisition of crew shards for him. Following 10 of 11, we have Gorkon. Gorkon is a Klingon patriot. He is also a very good officer. He increases your critical hit chance at base of 10% before synergy. That lasts for 2 rounds. And then once he has created that crit, or you get a crit hit, he has a base of 70% of causing hull breach for 3 rounds, which is very nice. That said, Gorkon is very highly sourceable. He is in the Ultra Recruit pack, the Premium Recruit pack. He's in the regular faction, the Elite faction. He has transporter patterns, so no issues to probably get him. He does have decent, or if not very good, value or usefulness at unlock, and he does have a long-term value of high. So yes, definitely an officer we want to get, but with his availability to crew shards, probably not one we want to look at investing our full unlock of an officer on. Now we have another lower deck officer, Deanna Troi. Deanna Troi is a below the deck officer for the most part. She does have an officer ability that increases the health of all the officers on the ship, but where she really stands out is her Fix It Right Up below the deck ability, which will increase your hull health by a pretty decent percent. So definitely a great officer. Tendi is relatively easy to obtain for the most part, because she actually has transporter patterns, but she's also available in the Mission Key Hunter as well, and the support tab or your support area. That you can actually recruit her there as well. Her usefulness at unlock is very high, and her long-term value is very high as well, because of that nice boost to your hull deck or hull health when she is below the deck. Tendi is followed by Kang. He's a member of the Blood and Honor group. I used to run the Kang Kang a lot. I actually do like Kang's Captain's Maneuver. It's Dahar Master. He actually has an 80% chance of dealing hull breach on the opponent for 3 rounds, which is very nice, but it does require him to be in the officer's or captain's seat, which is why most people don't use them, because they want to use another officer in the captain's seat. And his below the deck is going to increase the accuracy of your ship by a very nice amount as well. So Kang is also highly sourceable. He is available through our Ultra Recruit, our Premium Recruit. He's in the Faction Elite. He has transporter patterns as well. His usefulness out of the box is great if you're going to use him for his captain's maneuver, but not so good for just his officer abilities. So we're going to rate that as kind of a medium usefulness. And his overall long-term viability is probably going to be about a medium as well, for the same reason. He's going to be a great officer for lower level commanders who don't have some of the range of officers to choose from in doing their activities. Next up in our list is a Romulan. Her name is Sela. She is a member of the Pride of Romulus group. Her captain's maneuver will increase your critical hit damage by 8%, and her officer's ability decreases the enemy's critical hit chance by 1%. This is a nice ability, but the percent is pretty low, so there's not a lot of value there as far as trying to use her or get the most out of her officer ability. She is available in the Mission Key, the Ultra Recruit, the Faction Elite packs in the store. Her usefulness out of the box is pretty low, just because, most people don't use her a lot. It's the increase to the critical damage is nice, but she has to be running as captain, and we just have better officers that we could use her for. So her long-term longevity or long-term value is going to be low as well, just because for the most part you're going to end up using her to boost your below the deck crew bonus, if you even try and use her at all. Next we have Deanna Troi. She's a member of the TNG crew. She is a more primary armada officer. She reduces the critical chance of armadas by 15% with her captain's maneuver. Her officer's maneuver will increase the weapon damage against Romulan hostiles or Romulan armadas by a really nice percent. So definitely nice abilities, but it's restricted based upon the hostile type, so has a lower usefulness in my opinion. She's available through the Ultra Recruit pack, and she also has transporter patterns. Her usefulness out of the box is fairly low, and her long-term value is low as well. So probably not an officer you'll want to be looking to use your free unlock on. Next we have Gary Mitchell. He's a member of the Auxiliary Controls group in game. He is basically a base defense officer, but unfortunately not a very good one in the current state of crew and game that we have. He's relatively sourceable as well. Gary Mitchell is available through the Ultra Recruit packs, the Premium packs. Has his own transporter patterns as well. His usefulness and unlock is pretty low, and I believe his long-term viability is low as well. So probably an officer that you're going to want to acquire organically. Gary Mitchell is followed by TOS Kirk. TOS Kirk is a very nice officer. He is another one of our morale generating officers, and his captain's maneuver will actually increase the energy weapons damage for your ship based on the total defense of all the officers on the ship, so he's pretty nice there as well. TOS Kirk is available through the Ultra Recruit Pack and the Faction Elite Pack, and also has transporter patterns that you can acquire him. He is very useful at unlock. He actually has a very good chance to inspire morale, and your long-term viability for him is going to be high because of his ability to be very reliable in creating the morale state. Our next officer is a Borg officer. He is 11 of 11. He is a mining officer. He'll actually increase your efficiency in mining crystal, and he will increase the warp speed of your miner with his officer ability. His sourcing is actually fairly weak. He's only available through the Borg refinery right now. His usefulness at unlock is extremely high if you're into mining, so he should be valuable for you there. And because he is a mining officer, he's pretty much useful throughout the life of the game. Because of the weak sourcing for him, and if you don't have him already, he might be a good choice for unlocking with your 5-year anniversary gift. Giorgio is my choice burning officer, especially in PvE scenarios. She used to be extremely useful in PvP and still is very good in PvP, but she doesn't hold up to the Battleship Strike Team, unfortunately. She has a weak sourcing in the game. She is available in the Discovery Recruit and in Transporter Patterns, which is great because it does kind of make her a la carte. I highly recommend that you invest Transporter Patterns into her. But do we want to drop our 5-year anniversary into her? I would consider it if I was a lower level operations, like in my lower 20s and 30s maybe, picking her up, because she is extremely useful in your gameplay, and she will have a decent long-term value for you. But ultimately, she does have a sourcing method, and it is fairly a la carte because she has transporter patterns. So if you're working your, maxing out your officers and getting a lot of those transporter shards, you could actually get her relatively easily. Next up, we have probably one of our favorite Ferengi from DS9, Quark. He's part of the Ferengi conglomerate, and he is a very good officer. He will increase your cargo capacity with his captain's maneuver, or protected cargo, I'm sorry, and then increases your mining speed as his officer ability. He has a little bit of sourcing. He is currently available in the Mission Key Hunter and in the Ultra Recruit now, which he didn't used to be. So he does have some availability, but those are the only two sourcing methods for him that I was able to identify. He is extremely useful at unlock if you are a miner and like to do that kind of things. I think most of us always have miners out, so he does have high unlock value, and he does also have long-term value because of the mining. Because he is only available in the mission keys and the Ultra Recruit kind of makes his acquisition quite a bit easier. So maybe want to consider this when you're thinking about if you want to unlock Quark. Carol Marcus is part of your auxiliary controls group, so she was initially designed for kind of your base defense. She has she decreases weapons damage with her captain's maneuver, and then her below the deck ability will increase your weapons damage. She's very sourceable within the game. She is available in the Ultra Recruit, the Premium Recruit pack. She's also got Transporter Shards. So extremely a la carte with her crew shards. She is really not that useful at unlock, and she really has a low long-term value outside of increasing your below the deck crew bonuses. So probably an officer you could just skip right over when considering unlocking with your 5-year anniversary gift. 3 of 11. Our Borg variant of T'Ping is your gas efficiency miner. She also protects your resources with her officer ability. She's a very good officer if you're, again, into the mining part of the game. She'll be extremely helpful for you there. Borg 3 of 11 has the availability in transporter patterns and in the Borg refinery, so she is sourceable. She didn't used to be very sourceable. Definitely an officer if you're in the lower level of the games and you're having a harder time getting the shards for her. You could consider thinking about unlocking her, because you'll get value from her at unlock with the mining increase and the protected cargo, and she's going to have an extremely long life within the game for you. So it could be a potential officer for you to think about. I'd maybe mark her with a maybe. Khan Noonien Singh. Khan Noonien Singh is an amazing critical generating officer. Okay, he has a great value for lower operations officers, 20 plus, maybe up to 40. There are some other officers that will generate some crits for you that are very role specific, but Khan will work basically all the time, right? So that's his officer ability, Savage Tenacity. Every time you take a hit by a weapon or a defense platform, he's going to increase your critical chances by a percentage. So this is extremely valuable. Ruthless Mastermind gives you a % chance to drastically reduce the opponent's station and ship mitigation for 2 rounds. So this is actually a base assault captain's maneuver. His availability or resourcing, he's in the mission key, and he also has transporter patterns, so you can get him kind of a la carte. He's in the augment store as well, the augment faction store. His usefulness unlock is very useful, and he is going to have a very long-term value for you inside the game. So again, lower officers who maybe haven't unlocked him yet, definitely something to think about, maybe investing your shards to get him unlocked. But if you're patient, you will get him fairly reasonable time frame within the game. So just keep that in mind as well. But Khan Noonien Singh is definitely a great officer and will have great long-term value for you. Gabriel Lorca is part of the Terran Empire group in Starfleet Command. He is your best hull breach officer in the game. He's the most reliable at generating hull breach, especially as you level him up. If you have not unlocked Gabriel Lorca by now in the game, or if you're relatively new in the Ops 20 Plus, you might want to consider getting Gabriel Lorca. He's going to be tremendous value for you in your game. He does have sourcing methods, though. He is available in the Discovery Recruit, which is an extremely small trickle. He's in the Ultra Recruit, which is a little bit better than no sourcing at all. He is not in transporter patterns or pretty much anywhere else as far as sourcing. So that does make him a very slow trickle officer. So definitely want to consider unlocking him if you haven't unlocked him. His usefulness at unlock is very high. He's a 50% at base for generating hull breach, and he does it for a couple rounds there, so that's pretty nice as well. And his long-term value is he's pretty much going to roll with you for as long as you're playing the game, unless they give us a better hull breach officer that is not function specific, like PvP specific or fighting a player specific. Gabriel Oracle would generate that hull breach for you in any combat scenario. So definitely one to consider potentially dropping your 5-year gift on. Alexander Marcus, he's part of our Section 31 group within the game. He is going to be your shield piercing officer. His officer ability will bypass 100% at base of the shield defense, and that goes up pretty high to 1600%. So it's very nice shield piercing officer. Great against explorers. His captain's ability, he has a chance of inspiring morale, and it's actually a pretty high chance of inspiring morale out of the gate. Get some synergy with him. You can actually get your ship morale up pretty quick, so it might be a good hostile. He is a good hostile grinding officer against explorers, but very niche in that usage there as being against explorers. He does have high resource acquisition capability within the game. He's in the Ultra Recruit, the Premium Recruit. He's also in the Faction Elite Recruit and has transporter patterns, so he's kind of a la carte. His usefulness in the game at unlock is definitely there, but his long-term value for you outside of below the deck is going to be kind of a medium value, so probably not an officer you'll want to consider using your tokens on. Honorguard Worf. This is an officer that everybody needs. And when he originally came out into the game, it was extremely hard to get. He is, his captain's ability is Soldier of the Empire, and he's going to increase your ship's armor piercing by 30% of the crew attack. But what really makes him stand out is his officer ability, which is Rage of Khitomer. He actually is going to increase the critical hit chance of the ship by 45% at base, and this goes up to 100% at commander. So extremely awesome officer. He used to be extremely hard to get. He is actually available through several resourcing methods now. They've bumped him up a little bit as well. He's available in the Ultra Recruit. His sourcing, if you're working the amalgam and have the amalgam, is very nice and very lucrative, so you can progress him pretty quickly if you do have the amalgam. And he's also in the Faction Elite for Klingons, so you'll find him there as well. So we do have several methods to source him now. His usefulness at unlock is extremely high, so you'll get a lot of use out of him, especially in PvP. But he is pretty much basically a PvP officer, so because that crit chance is when fighting other players, so keep that in mind as well. If you're not a big PvP player, he just lost a lot of value for you. His long-term value, though, is going to be high for those of us that do enjoy some PvP or want to be relatively successful in our PvP. Because of the higher sourcing that they've added to the game for him, I would drop down my interest in wanting to unlock him. But if you're in the lower levels of the game, you don't have the amalgam or something like that, it might actually be a little high. Or you might rate him a little higher. So I would probably give him a medium to high interest in potentially using my tokens to unlock Honorguard Worf. Harcourt Fenton Mudd, or Mudd from the Mudd Companies group, or as they're calling him, the Discovery Mudd in this 5-year anniversary pack, is an okay officer. His officer ability is actually really intriguing. He has a chance to double your shots for 1 round at the basically the first round of combat. That goes up to 60%, so it gets a little bit better as you max him out. His 2 steps ahead is his captain's maneuver, which he raises your shield mitigation to 98% for first 2 rounds, and you can get some synergy there to get that a little bit higher. Really, his sourcing is there within the game. He's in the Ultra Recruit, and he's in the transporter patterns. So he does have pretty flexible sourcing. He's also in your outlaw store within the faction section of the menu. But here's the thing, right? He's really not useful at unlock. You're going to have to invest a lot of resources in him to make him of value. I also think his long-term value in the game is pretty low. He's just kind of a cool niche officer. So I would not want to consider using my tokens to unlock him. Number 35 on the list is Nero. Nero is a great burning officer. His only drawback is that he requires a weapon strike in order to potentially trigger his officer ability, which will impose burning condition on your enemy. He does increase your damage to the weapons by a percentage in his captain's ability. Pretty decent in both PvP and PvE, but he is kind of outshined by Giorgio, which drops my interest if I didn't have him in potentially unlocking him. I'd probably want to focus on Giorgio. He's got very good resourcing in the game as well. He's available in the Ultra Recruit, Premium Recruit. You'll find him in the regular Faction Recruit and the Elite as well. Plus, he also has Transporter Patterns. So you can look at those resources. Gives you a lot of options to get shards for him, so you could unlock him relatively quickly if you haven't unlocked him yet, or actually progress him pretty quickly in the game as well. So his usefulness in unlock is very high though, because he does generate that burning condition for you, and there's some ships that rely on that. So he's definitely valuable there, and he does have a higher long-term value, but he may get bumped down because of your unlocking of Giorgio. So in this case, I think because of his high availability in different resource acquisition methods, and the fact that Giorgio is out there and also in this list, I'd probably not look at putting my tokens into Nero. Rom. Oh, Rom. Rom is part of the Ferengi conglomerate. He is, yeah. Definitely definitely was a great officer. If it was a year ago, I would be saying yes, drop your gift into Rom if you do not have him and you are a base raider. If you're not a base raider, basically Rom doesn't have a whole lot of value for you outside of giving you some synergy with your Ferengi conglomerate officers. Rom's since then been overshadowed by a prime, which does the same thing but for 2 rounds instead of 1 round. So if you have invested double into that prime, it's a 2-stage prime. Rom's pretty much pointless for you. He is available in the Ultra Recruit and the Transporter Patterns as well, so it makes him a pretty good resource method for you there. At lower level officers might find high usefulness at unlock. He actually is very useful at unlock. You don't need to progress him in the game, so he has high usefulness unlock, but his long-term value is actually low now because of the primes that are out there. If you're not going to do the prime and you are a base raider though, he's definitely a pretty valuable officer, and you may want to consider dropping your tokens into him. I personally would recommend not doing that, just because of the primes out there. You know, the prime is better than Rom, unfortunately, so it kind of has made him a very less valuable officer, which is unfortunate. I kind of liked Rom.
Jean-Luc Picard, the captain that is favoritely targeted by Q.
So Picard is a TNG crew group. He's a very good officer to unlock if you haven't unlocked him. He actually increases with his officer ability your critical damage by 1%. It goes up to 25% as you unlock him. Kind of a low value on the increased critical hit damage, but we have other officers that can synergize with him very well. His captain's ability is what makes him shine. He actually increases the effectiveness of officer abilities that trigger in combat by 20%. This is any combat, so PvP, PvE, so very useful in both sides of things there with that. And his availability in game for sourcing is actually only through the transporter patterns and you know, special
options for him. So, but that does mean, because he's in the transporter patterns, and if you're getting your transporter patterns from other max crews, so commanders that are further on into their post Ops 20, so maybe more up into Ops 45 or 40s, where they may have are actually banking transporter shards. He's definitely going to be a lot easier to get a hold of. If you're in the lower ops, he's going to be very hard to get a hold of, so you may want to consider dropping your tokens on Jean-Luc Picard. He is going to have a long-term usefulness for you, so pretty high long-term usefulness, and his usefulness unlock at unlock is actually there as well. So might flag him with a maybe in your interest if you want to consider unlocking Picard with your tokens. PIC Admiral Picard. He's of the Picard group. On paper, Picard looks phenomenal. He really does look like a great officer to acquire. He inspires morale with his captain's maneuver, and that is at a 90% chance, and it's 4-3 rounds, which is absolutely amazing. His officer ability will increase your weapons damage by 500%. And that's base weapon damage, so keep that in mind. So 500% may not seem like a lot, but as he gets up to Commander 5, it's literally 3,000%, which is significant. So his at unlock is questionable, right? The sourcing for him first is not there. This is it, right? This is your opportunity to unlock him if you're interested in him. He is pretty much only a PvP officer, so if you're not in PvP player, then you can literally skip him as far as interest in unlocking him. But if you are a PvP officer and you do not have the strike team, PIC Admiral Picard stands by himself. He doesn't need the whole team. He's going to give you your morale. He's going to increase your weapon damage below, and then you can stick with other officers to the side to support him, like Honorguard Worf and Lorca. So definitely an officer to consider if you are into PvP, right? And you want to be successful there. So I would definitely rate him as a high interest in potentially dropping your tokens on him. The problem here too, or the caveat I'm going to throw out there, is if you do have the Explorer Strike Team, he is not going to outshine the Explorer Strike Team. He is going to be a great secondary Explorer crew. Maybe if you're trying to crew up 2 Explorers or something like that in a TC or something, you just want a little extra power on that secondary Explorer that's sitting out there. But again, there is no sourcing for him. He is useful at unlock, and his long-term value in the game is going to be subjective to how quickly you can get the Explorer Strike Team, because that's really the only thing that's going to trump him. Oh, our favorite changeling, Odo, from the Deep Space Nine group in Star Trek Fleet Command. His officer ability does not exist, but he has, Captain's Maneuver doesn't exist. He does have an officer ability. It's Fluidic Strength. He will increase your shield deflection, dodge, and armor by 40%. This is not where he shines, though. His true calling is below the deck, which is Rightus Might. He's actually going to increase your critical hit damage at a base of 20%. This is going to go all the way up to 60%. Odo is an amazing officer. His value at unlock is high because he's below the deck. All you got to do is drop him down there, and he's going to work for you. His sourcing does not exist. He's not available in any packs or anything like that. This is your way to get Odo unlocked today, right? I definitely would flag him as high. His usefulness unlock is very high. His long-term value is very high because he's below the deck. He's always going to be working for you. So I would give him a high interest. If you haven't unlocked Odo yet playing the game, I definitely would consider very hard at using my tokens to unlock Odo if you haven't unlocked him. Great officer. Number 40 on the list is Gul Dukat. He's part of our Interceptor Strike team, and he is going to be your primary officer in that strike team. He actually, when on an Interceptor, has a 20% chance to fly hull breach for 3 rounds. And then that's at the start of round. Synergy will increase this up. So if you have synergy on both sides, this will actually bump this up to 100%. Officer ability, if you have hull breach, he's actually going to increase the number of shots by a percentage. This goes up to 50%, which is also phenomenal. The key thing to remember about Gul Dukat is he needs the synergy. He's not going to work very well for you out of the box if you don't have the full synergy for him, which means you need all of the strike team. So keep that in mind when considering unlocking Gul Dukat. If you don't have at least one supporting officer to put beside him, then you probably aren't going to get much value at unlock from him. He is not sourceable any other way right now. He's not in any kind of officer recruit packs that are available in the game. So this is your opportunity to unlock him. Again, just keep in mind, if you are considering unlocking Gul Dukat, you want to make sure that you've got some synergy officers to support him. But this is a good opportunity to get started on that interceptor strike team if you want to look at it that way as well. So, because you right now, without spending for him, there's no other way to get Gul Dukat. And for your speed demons out there, Strange New World, Una Chin Riley. She is a pretty good officer in unlock. Where she stands out is her officer's ability, which is engine redlining. She increases the impulse by 15 at base. It goes up to 50 as you level her up. Her modified weaponry is also nice, which is her captain's maneuver, which does increase the weapon damage by 100%, and she gets 100% synergy from each side as well. But this is only to base, so it's not that impressive for commanders that are further along into the game with their researches and stuff like that. She is hard to source. Right now, she's only available in the mission key for any kind of daily in-game sourcing. And then outside of that, you have to wait for incursions and how well you do within your incursions. She is good at unlock, though, so she's very useful at unlock. And she is going to have a high long-term value for you because she pairs very well to round out your Strange New World crew with Strange New World Pike and whoever's triangle officer you're running with them. So, that said, I am going to say that unlocking Una Chin Riley, if you're in the lower operations, post 20 ops level up to maybe 40, 45, she's definitely one to consider unlocking because she does balance out your full synergy crew there and get you zipping around the systems fairly quickly, hunting down those hostiles. So there's some good value there with her. So I definitely would mark her as higher on the list of interest to unlock because she does have pretty versatile usage and she is fairly hard to acquire. Reginald Barclay. He is of the holodeck group within Star Trek Fleet Command. He has no captain's ability. He does have an officer ability, which will increase your base defense of all officers by 5%. Pretty weak, going up to 30%. He will bolster your ship stores, increases your base protected cargo by 30%. This does go up to 100%. It's not really a significant increase until you get him near maxed out. Reginald Barclay is probably the one officer I will say that I will max last in this game. So let me just call that out right there. I am not very impressed with Reginald Barclay. I wasn't impressed with him when he was released. I think he was too high thought of, and they still have pretty rough sourcing for him, unfortunately. He is in the Mission Key Hunter, and he does now have a availability within the transporter patterns. So yeah, you're very, very resourceable now, or sourceable now. He does have usefulness at unlock because he will increase your protective cargo, especially for lower ops commanders who maybe don't have the research into protected cargo. So that is a plus for him there, and he will have long-term value just because he's a below the deck officer. And it's for mining to increase your protected cargo. Sometimes every little bit helps, right? When you're out there trying to mine and you don't want to go OP. But ultimately, I would not consider dropping my free token into Reginald Barclay. I think it would probably be a waste of that token. There are a lot of better officers out there that we could drop our tokens on. PIC Riker, he's part of the Picard group in the game, and PIC Riker is your burning officer. He will increase your chance of burning by 90% for 3 rounds when attacking player ships. So there's your caveat. He is a PvP only officer. Very nice chance to create the burning, so pretty reliable. His officer ability when he's on a battleship will increase your weapon damage by 500%, increases up to 3,000%. So at the lower levels of unlock, not as good. Because this is your base weapons damage, but at the higher levels it's a little bit more significant. PIC Riker's sourcing within the game is pretty low. It's non-existent. This again is another option for you to unlock him. He does have usefulness out of the box, again, if you do not have the Battleship Strike Team. If you do have the Battleship Strike Team, you could probably skip over PIC Riker. You won't find a whole lot of value for him unless you're trying to crew multiple battleships. Then you could actually get some usefulness out of him, potentially running him with Worf and Lorca, giving you a little bit of everything there on your battleship, right? So ultimately, because he is harder to source on the game, and he does have some out-of-the-box value immediately at unlock. He will have kind of a medium long-term value within the game, because eventually you should get the Battleship Strike Team. He'll become less valuable, but this is your only option right now to actually acquire him, so you consider that when looking through the officers that you might want to put your token into. Strange New Worlds Hemmer. He's part of the Strange New Worlds group, of course, SNW Hemmer. Hemmer does not have a captain's maneuver, but he has an officer's ability, which is Fix What Is Broken. He's going to increase your armor, shield deflection, and dodge by a nice little amount when he's in the officer's seat. And this is absolutely very good, right? Because it's when you're attacking survey ships, so out there survey ship shopping for survey parts, or in this case actually where he's really going to stand out is in your faction grind, because we all know survey ships give us higher faction rep when we kill them. So definitely an officer you want to have. He stands by himself. He doesn't require any synergy. His officer ability goes up pretty nice, up to 2,500% at commander. He's got a really good below the deck ability as well. He'll increase the health of all the officers on the ship at a base of 70%. And this goes all the way up to 150%. So if you're looking to boost that your officer health below the deck for that bridge officer that needs that boost in health, he is absolutely very good and worth considering. He's only sourceable through the Strange New World crew exchange in the Mantis refinery. So, he's very hard to get a hold of. If you're lucky, you might actually get an unlock from that Strange New World, but if you're lucky, right? So if you don't have Hemmer and you're working on your faction rep and you're working on maybe your survey parts, get your surveys up, you definitely want to probably consider unlocking Hemmer. His usefulness is definitely there right out of the box, and his long-term value is going to be there as well. So it would be a good officer to unlock, and I would probably rate him high. If you have not unlocked him yet, you definitely want to consider potentially unlocking Hemmer. Good officer. PIC Worf is our final Picard group officer in the list of available officers for our 5-year anniversary. PIC Worf is going to be your PvP hull breach officer, and he's going to ride very well on an interceptor. For those of you like me that are very much into the interceptor ships, he will increase your weapons damage by 500% against players if on an interceptor. He doesn't require the hull breach to increase that, so he works pretty well in the side seat as well. This goes up to 3,000%, which is where you're really going to see the benefit. So at unlock in that aspect, he is not going to be of high value, but his captain's maneuver, which creates the hull breach in PvP, is. His sourcing is just like the other PIC officers within the game that's available to us. It's non-existent. So this is your opportunity to unlock him. If you are an interceptor flyer, especially if you have multiple interceptors, you want to crew them, and you do not have the interceptor strike team. If I was to have a choice between him and Gul Dukat, and I did not have any of the other interceptor strike team officers, I definitely would consider unlocking Honorguard Worf with my tokens, and he will pair well with, I said Honorguard Worf, I'm sorry, PIC Worf, because he will pair well with Honorguard Worf and Lorca as well. So actually you don't need Lorca on the side. I'm misspeaking there, because he is generating the hull breach, so we're getting the premium unlock there as well. I think out of the PIC officers, Worf is my favorite because of that. And plus I also run primarily interceptors. Pretty much that's my ship of choice when it comes to in the game, especially for PvP. So definitely one to consider. I would kind of give him some high thought on that, especially if you don't have the interceptor strike team. The interceptor strike team as a combination will work better than PIC Worf, but standing alone, which we're getting a single unlock of an officer, this would be a good place to drop your tokens if you haven't unlocked him yet. Especially considering that he is a pay-only otherwise officer. So this could be a potentially nice offer from Scopely for you. All right, a DS9 Group Officer, Benjamin Sisko. Captain Benjamin Sisko is, or actually he wasn't a captain, was he? Commander Benjamin Sisko? Yeah, I think that's right. Anyhow, Benjamin Sisko is his captain's maneuver is very nice. He's going to increase your armor, shield, deflection, and dodge by 400%. This goes up to pretty high with synergy on both sides. You can get up to 500% synergy from both sides. He is actually probably more an Armada officer, and that's because of his officer ability, which is persistent. It's key. He's going to increase your critical chance against Armadas 3% every round. So this continues to accumulate, and as he gets higher up, it goes up to 12% per round. So definitely a great officer to consider. His sourcing within the game, he is available in the Bajoran faction store only. So pretty hard to get. You have to really engage in the Bajoran loop. If you are into doing the Armadas, he works against all Armadas. He's not just locked down to solo Armadas. So he's got a lot of value, especially at unlock, even just solo. He's pretty hard to get, and he's going to have long-term value for you because Armadas aren't going away. They just seem to be adding more to the game, and with the limited resource for him just through the Bajoran store alone, definitely want to kind of flag him as a high interest if you don't have him yet, especially you lower level players that are working on maybe just starting out in your discovery or defiant loop with the with the Bajoran faction loop in the game there. It also he's just a great officer, especially for Armadas, if you like to engage in those. If you don't like to engage in Armadas, again, you could probably bypass Sisko. His value for you is going to drop down a little bit if you don't really engage in the Armadas. But there's a lot of good return if you do invest your time and energy into the Armadas with the Armada of chests and stuff that you can exchange. So anyhow, I would give him a high value, and I definitely would consider unlocking Benjamin Sisko. The Borg Queen. If you haven't watched my video assessment of the Borg Queen, I'm going to go ahead and include the link above here for you because you probably want to watch it. Ultimately, I was very disappointed in the crew configuration for the Borg Queen. She has no captain's maneuver. She is all officer and lower deck. Her officer ability is actually fairly nice. If you don't have complementary officers, she does increase your critical hit chance by 1% cumulative against solo armadas only. So she's kind of restricted there. Again, that's one of my complaints about her configuration. And then her below the deck, she will, when fighting players with the assimilate condition, she will actually increase your armor piercing, accuracy, and shield piercing by a nice %, and it goes up pretty well as you progress her. The problem with that is that she's dependent on Dazok, and Dazok's not available for us to unlock in here. So honestly, I would not waste my token. I hate saying this. She's only available in the Borg exchange in your research, right? So that's the only way that you can continue to acquire shards. You got to have Dazok before she's really of any value below the deck. And she's very niche for you as far as armadas go as an officer ability. So she does have usefulness at unlock because of the armada ability, but her long-term value, in my opinion, is going to be relatively low until you actually get the other assimilate officers for below the deck. That's where she's really going to shine, and then that's going to be PvP only. So I would not recommend dropping your token on the Borg Queen, and then head on over and check out our Borg video, the Borg Queen assessment video. I'd love your feedback on that as well. But yes, Borg Queen is probably going to be a recommended no from me. Strike Team, Strange New World La'an. This is your epic officer of the Battleship Strike Team. She is, again, dependent on synergy for the most part, especially for her officer's ability, which is pretty low. When she's on a battleship, at the start of each round, she will increase the number of shots per weapon by 10%, getting some pretty decent synergy from both sides, though. So there's a significant increase in that as well. In the side seat, though, she does have a 60% chance out of the box to create burning for 3 rounds when fighting other players' ships and while on a battleship. So there is value there with her. This goes up to 90%, but again, to really be effective, she needs the full strike team to give her the boost that she needs with her captain's maneuver. She's not available in any other sourcing in the game right now, so that means that there's high value there. This is a very good, the strike team is a very good PvP if you're into PvP. Again, so keep that in mind. This is mostly PvP or all PvP with her. So her long-term value, the strike team is still probably one of the better strike teams, or if not the best strike team out there that's available to us. And you know, so she's definitely an officer to consider. If you don't have the other strike team, again, I would lean towards PIC Riker. I think you might get more single value out of him, as he's got a lot less dependency on synergy. But again, strike team Strange New World La'an is not available in any other method in the game, so definitely worth considering using your tokens to unlock her. Strange New Worlds, Christopher Pike. He's part of the Strange New World group in game. This is a great officer at the unlock. His captain's maneuver, prepare for anything, increases your shield mitigation by 4%, getting some pretty decent synergy from both sides, from both seats beside him. So that is really nice. You could actually get this up to 14%. His quick thinking, which is his captain's maneuver, He decreases the hostile shield mitigation by 10%, and this goes up to 35% at Commander, which is also fairly nice. Christopher Pike, his availability in game is relatively limited outside of he is in transporter patterns now, and he's in the Strange New World pack, so you can definitely work to unlock him. And that's pretty much an a la carte sourcing path with the transporter patterns. So probably don't want to consider using your tokens to unlock him unless maybe you're at lower ops in the lower plus 20 ops level. You might want to consider him. I maybe put a maybe on him, but if there's not another higher interest officer out there in the group, or maybe you've unlocked most of these other officers for some reason, maybe Christopher Pike will be a good unlock for you.
Jadzia Dax is one of our officers that are available to us within the list. She's actually a Deep Space Nine officer. Her Captain's Maneuver Keen Eye is going to increase your shield piercing, armor piercing, and accuracy by a pretty decent percent, but it's only against solo armadas, so she's pretty limited as far as what she can do there in her captain's ability, and then her officer's ability is also restricted in solo armadas as well, and this is going to increase your weapon damage by 1%, and it goes up pretty high. It goes up to 1200%, but ultimately there are better officers to run her in synergy with Sisko, so I don't see her having a high value. She's very hard to source as well. Actually, she's not available in the Bajoran crew pack, so this is something to consider if you're looking to collect, or you need a little help with your Bajoran DS9 Armada crew, but again, she's only going to be effective on the solo armadas for you. So keep that in mind. Her out-of-the-box effectiveness is actually pretty good with her captain's ability and her officer's ability. She does synergize well with Sisko. If you are looking for one of those officers to synergize in the DS9 crew, if you happen to be running or need something for your DS9 armadas for that third ship or something like that. But in the end, her long-term usefulness, I think, is going to be very low because, like I said, there are other officers that will provide better value and synergize well with Sisko, and they are available in the DS9 Recruit pack. And our final officer, number 52 on the list, our last strike team officer, is Weyoun. He is the Explorer Strike Team Epic Officer. His Captain's Maneuver Silver Tongue is fairly nice. He has a 20% chance to apply morale for 3 rounds, and then he does get 40% synergy from each side, which gets us up to 100%. So he is dependent on the full strike team synergy for his Captain's Maneuver. And then his below the deck, or officer ability is actually very nice as well. Manipulate, Cajole, and Deceive. He increases the weapons shot by 76% at the start of each round for 2 rounds. And this goes up significantly to 120% at Commander, so really nice. And this, of course, is conditional to having morale, which shouldn't be a problem if he is the captain. To his sourcing. His sourcing is just like the other strike team. It is a pay sourcing method, so this is your free opportunity to unlock Weyoun. If you have the other Explorer Strike Team officers unlocked already to support him, then definitely, and you haven't unlocked Weyoun, or you want to progress Weyoun, this is definitely a great place to throw some shards into him. The Explorer Strike Team is not the best strike team group out there, but if you're an Explorer runner, you definitely would probably find some value in Weyoun, so you definitely want to look at potentially picking him up. So again, keep everything in mind. He does need full synergy, and if you have PIC Picard, he is probably going to work better for you in the solo officer scenario as far as PvP. Again, Weyoun is only PvP.
He has to be on an Explorer, and he works best with full synergy. If you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for bearing with me as I give my short descriptions of every officer. If you jump to this point in the video, let's get down to the top choices of epic officers. Out of the 52, I have narrowed this list down to a top 12 choices. Again, I considered the following: sourcing availability. I removed any officer from the list that is available to transporter shards and that is available through the Ultra Recruit or Premium Recruit as well. I just think that this makes them much more accessible or easier to acquire officers, so I don't see the value in us using our 5-year unlock on these officers. I then filtered them down by their usefulness at unlock. Ultimately, if an officer is not going to be useful at the unlock, I don't really think it is one that we're going to want to look at actually spending the gift unlock on. So after filtering by sourcing and availability, I then removed all of these officers remaining that were not useful at unlock. I then filtered down by the long-term value of the officers. Obviously, we don't want to acquire an officer that's going to have a short lifespan for us in the game. So this was my final filter that I applied, and this got me down to the remaining 12 choices of officers from the 52. So now, how did I order the final 12 remaining officers? What I looked at is I gave a greater weight to the officers that were more multi-purpose or had more capability to do more for me in the game. These are also potentially daily officers that we might be using, so they got a higher rating than officers that are more niche or specific uses. And because of this, you'll see that the strike team officers actually moved further down the list versus being higher up on the list, because they are actually locked down to specific activities such as PvP. So this means that at 12, 11, and 10, we have the Strike Team Epic Officers. And the reason these are the lower end of the list is because they are highly dependent on the full team synergy. If you don't have the synergy officers, the unlock value is not as significant, and these officers are also very specific to PvP, limiting their usability within the game. The order of these 3 officers was also set based upon the actual performance of their overall strike team, meaning the Battleship Strike Team La'an Epic Officer actually came in slot 10. 9, 8, and 7 ended up being our PIC officers, or officers from the Picard group in the game. And the reason is because they are PvP officers. Riker is number 9, Admiral Picard is number 8, and Worf ended up being number 7. And the order of this really was dictated by the value of the condition that they apply against your opponent. Worf being our hull breach officer, this being the best condition in the game, and so that put him in spot number 7. And the reason they are lower on the list again is because they are PvP specific officers, making them very specific activities in the game. In the middle at number 6 we have Jaylah. Jaylah is a great swarm officer, and you could argue she actually has a shelf life into your lower ops 50. But she is, however, not locked just to swarm. Her captain's ability or maneuver actually works on any target. The downside is you lose her officer's ability, since it is locked to swarm and being on the Franklin. But
she is also a weekly potential officer with our Swarm Sundays. So this put Jaylah at number 6 on the list. At number 5 is Strange New World Una Chin Riley. Una Chin Riley is a very useful officer, and she could become probably part of your daily hostile grind setup. I do use her daily in my setups when I'm running the Strange New Worlds crew. I just enjoy the increased impulse speed when grinding hostiles, which shortens the amount of time that I spend grinding those hostiles. But again, her real overall benefit is the synergy along with the perk of the increased impulse speed. She struggled a little bit to bump Jaylah for spot 5 in the list, but she did make number 5. At number 4, I put Benjamin Sisko. Benjamin Sisko might be a niche officer as he's locked to armadas only, but the reason he kind of falls into number 4 is because he'll work on any armada. So any armada activities, you can actually run him as captain or as an officer. And because of the payouts of armada reward chests, I think this makes him a very valuable officer. And this is why he is number 4 on the list. Then we have Data. Data is number 3 on the list, and he is a very hard to source officer, but he's very good. I use Data on mission bosses, grinding hostiles, and as a captain in an armada build. It actually was tough putting him in spot 3 and not maybe number 2 above Hemmer. And I'll get to why Hemmer came out number 2. Ultimately, I think this is a great spot for Data because he's very hard to source, and that is only through ATAs. And he actually is a fairly versatile officer. I put Strange New World Hemmer at number 2. And the reason he is number 2 is because of the faction benefits that you get by running him in the Strange New World crew build. He is a survey ship specific officer, yes, but he's the only officer that we have that boosts our mitigation against survey ships specifically. That, coupled with his below the deck ability of increasing the health of officers on a ship, which I have found to be very valuable in supporting bridge crew when I don't need Hemmer on the bridge. Because survey ships give us the highest payout for faction reputation and his affinity towards the survey ships, this really elevated Hemmer into our second spot. Even though he is sourceable through the Mantis Refinery with the Strange New Worlds crew exchange, that is the only sourcing method we currently have for him in the game. And finally, at number 1, we have Odo. I think Odo made it here on the list because out of these top 12, he is the one officer that is truly usable in pretty much every single scenario in game when it comes to crewing our ships. He's effective in hostile grinding, PvP, armadas, mission bosses, and pretty much anything else that requires you to boost your critical damage from your ship. And all of this is only his below the deck ability, which is really ultimately where I think he's going to be all the time for commanders. Additionally, there is no other sourcing for Odo outside of spending in the game. So this makes Odo my number 1 choice. And most likely, Odo will be the officer that I will spend my 5th year anniversary credits on. Even though I've already unlocked him, this will help me to progress him higher up in the game without me having to wait for a spend pack or specific events to continue to progress him. Check out our website for more videos. And join us in Discord using the link in the video description to continue the discussion and get access to more resources. We hope you found the video informative and helpful. If so, please give us a thumbs up and share. We look forward to your comments and suggestions. Live long and prosper, Commander. This is Brightwood from Oracle Station, signing off.